one course until successful. The biggest mistake I see first-time authors make, and I'm not calling you out, but I hear it, is like, I got this thing and 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 this thing. And then you get to a point where you're like, I got so many like things I started. So I learned this from a mentor of mine. He said, okay, imagine if you have 4 projects. Okay, 4 projects that you want to do. He said what most people do is and let's say that each project took, let's just say 5 months each. Okay, just for sake of argument, 5 months each. So what most people do is they go project 1, project 2, project 3, project 4, project 1, 2, 3, 4. You see what I'm doing? So they like switch between projects. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. That is when project 1 would have had a total of, wait, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, there we go. So this right here is when project 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, project 1, if it took 5 months for project 1, this is when project 1 would have gotten finished. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 17 months for project 1 to finish. Although we said what? How long would it take for one project? Like 5 months. Let's say the average project is 5 months. Okay, so project 1, if you task switch like that, or you have a lot on your plate, it takes, how much did I say? 17 months? 1, 2, 3, okay, 17. 17 months for project 1. For project 1. Okay, so that's one way to do it. And a lot of people do that. I tend to do that too. I have so many ideas at the same time. But what I've discovered is that if you said, for the next 5 months, I'm only going to do one thing, and everything else, see you month 6. See you in a little bit. You just let it go on a little trip. You do travel stuff, right? So like let it go on a little cruise, and it'll come back in 6 months. Okay, so for example, I had this project called Sundays with Nanny. Sundays with Nanny. And my grandmother turned 100 years old. And when she was turning 90, 10 years ago, I said that I was going to write a book about the power of a praying grandmother and a grandson and grandmother relationship. So I was like, I'm going to write this book when she's 90. And guess what? She turned 91, no book. 92, no book. 93, 94, 95. And it wasn't until about 6 months before her 100th birthday that I said, I have to finish this. We hosted the birthday at here. And so I set a big goal to say, I'm going to hand her the book at her birthday party, 100-year birthday party. So that's like the first key, is figuring out what your big goal is, okay? So that's like the first part of the workshop, is what's that big goal? And what I recommend is that a year is way too long, because other things will come up. So my preferred timeline, I've been doing this for 11 years, my preferred timeline is 5 months. I think 5 months, it's about 150 days. In 150 days, you can really do anything 150 days and change your life. But you can also say, okay, 151 days, I'll go back to the old thing I was doing, but for 150 days, I'm gonna, almost like I'm gonna be on a missions trip, for 5 months. So here's how this affects the project, okay? I have a bunch of other books I wanted to write. So let's say that this is book number 1, and then I had 2 and 3 and 4. Okay, so month one, I'm gonna only work on Sundays with Nanny. And then month 2, what am I gonna work on? Sundays with Nanny, right? Okay, and then what about month 3? Yeah, come on, let's go. And what about month 4? And then month 5? And then month 6? It's done. It's done. Yeah. So then, this is what was really cool. This is the big aha. Instead of task switching, what I was able to do is go, the things I figured out by finishing this project actually helped project number 2. Okay? So then project number 2 took 1 month, 2nd month, 3rd month, and then only like half of the 4th month. Project number 2 didn't take as much time because the learning curve, and here's the thing, the learning curve of, editing and cover design and like all the things, how do I log in and click up, all the things you have to do to get started, I already paid that cost here. So instead of paying that cost multiple times, I already paid it once, and I can take what I invested in, I have to decide what software I'm going to use to write. Well, I'd already decided that. So then book 2, I already knew what software. So it's benefiting from what I'd already done. I had to figure out how much am I going to post on social media. Well, I already figured out. So now number 2, there's less distracted things because I figured those all out. And that's especially good for ADHD too, right? Because now I had to finish this. And when I finished this, I ended up with 2 things. I ended up with a published book, which was awesome. I handed it out to family. It was great. It comes out in September, but everybody got it early. Her birthday was April 24th. So they got the book, but I didn't just get a book done. I now had a system for writing that book, a system for editing that book. So then the next book, so much faster. So then check this out. What do you think happens with book 3? Yeah, like let's just say it's 3 months, but not 3.5, right? And then book 4, you get to a point where like you're not going to do it in a month, but you might do it in maybe 90 days. And so if you do the math on this, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So literally within 15 months, before I would have finished 1. Do you get it? Yeah. So follow 1 course until success. So this affects you if you're thinking about doing a podcast, think about YouTube channel, like whatever your next thing is. My recommendation is you just focus on that one thing and everything else is just noise. And you just say, I'll see you in January. Because where are we, August now? September, October, November, December, January. I'll see you in February. So whatever the other thing is, just say, see you in February. I've got to finish this one thing until I'm done. And so I'm doing that right now. I've got a YouTube channel off the ground, and I said I'm going to post every single day, all year, 365 days. And the way to get that going is I've got to do like basically 5 months of that as like my number one thing. And then I'm going to build such a habit and such a routine that it's going to be easy. And it's actually gotten easy. It's day 17 today. So the last 17 days in a row, I filmed a YouTube video, edited a YouTube video, posted a YouTube video. And now it's like so much easier today than it was yesterday, than it was the day before. Does that make sense? So the way to get from 2 to 30 or from 2 to 10 or 3 to 25, and the reason I like to do this workshop in this room is because you can see, if you study the story of each of these sort of mentors of ours, she started here, and then this was not book 2. This was, I think it was book 9. That was her big best-selling book. The second book wasn't the big best-selling book. It takes a while to go, if this is book 1, then this is book 2, right? And this is book 3. And in each book that you write, there's the seed of the next book. Does that make sense? So I found that it depends on where you want to go, but if the vision is to do this and really like make a big impact for a long time, it's about just continuous faithfulness in the same direction over time, multiplied by God, right? And as long as you keep moving, what's going to happen is this could be measured by audience growth, it could be measured by book sales, it could be measured based on income made from the book, but it really, like, as long as you keep planting, watering, reaping, planting, watering, reaping, like you just keep showing up, you're going to start to see that. And it takes a while for that kind of curve, but then over time, it really starts to grow. This makes sense? Yeah. This is kind of updated thinking when it comes to being a Christian author. I think that there are two kinds of ways that we write as a Christian author, and we have to be very specific about who our audience is. You're either writing audience and missionally, the saved audience, you're writing covenantally. So covenantally essentially is like, hey, we would say, okay, we believe in the authority of the Bible. Here's it, that I now have to be very timid. Erin is living her life, birth, 100, and so she's life stages. And what in life is we have our expectation, expect, endings. They're pregnant, son in December, and her husband's so excited, and everything's awesome. And then the company doesn't support him and lets him go. That's a letdown, right? Or maybe she is 28 years old, she has the baby, everything would be great, except she realizes that she doesn't have any mom friends and she feels isolated, right? So she's been let down. Maybe she's been let down by the husband. He doesn't know how to help with a baby. And so now they're bickering and she's like, this is supposed to be a happy time and now we don't get along. Or maybe there's been a failure. Maybe she actually had an abortion when she was 15. She didn't tell anybody about it. And now all these feelings are coming up of like guilt of like, I now have my baby with my husband, but I never told him about what happened back. Like those are real stories. So like maybe there's a failure that she's had in her life, or the E is for endings. Maybe there's an ending. Maybe as she has her baby, she realizes that she has to cut off a family member. I've heard of this happening with some of our authors where there's a family member who isn't safe with the baby. Those are all like real life stories. And so basically what Erin does is as she's living her life, she has this expectation that having the baby, everything's gonna be so great, right? Of course we think it's gonna be amazing. Sometimes we worry, but generally we're like, it's gonna be really awesome, And then there's an experience, and the experience is never completely what we expected. So there's a gap. And then this is where we as authors can really serve her to go back to our life and say, where have I experienced a letdown, isolation, failure, or an ending? And how can I talk about that story, meet her where she is? And my book isn't for pregnant moms. It's not even for 28-year-old pregnant moms. It's for 28-year-old pregnant moms who feel isolated, period. Like that's what the book is for. Because there's 3 million books published every year. She goes on Amazon and she types in those words and your book's the only one that comes up. And you meet her right where she is, rather than trying to compete with all the famous people and write a book about God is good. Like, yeah, he is, but also in the isolation of having my first baby when my husband travels and I don't have any mom friends, that's the book that she absolutely needed. And the fun thing is she doesn't care about your name, but your story is her story. And she goes, oh my goodness, if she did it, maybe I can do it too. Maybe I can get through it. Does that make sense? Yes. So that's the niching. That's specific. Yeah. Archery for mom whose husband is traveling. She thought she'd have a lot more help. Mother-in-law said, I'm going to move, I'm going to help. And now she's got a new job and now she feels really isolated. And so it's a book for postpartum women who feel isolated. And are there women who are not postpartum that feel isolated? Sure. They would be like, you get 30 points for her, not 50, right? And so is it for grandmas who feel isolated? Not really, but some of what you say resonates with the grandma. And so that's the idea of like the white hot stuff, like really focusing on that target. And then that's where I've seen people go from, I have to build my thing for 10 years and get famous, or I'm so specific that my name doesn't even matter because this is the story. And that's the story that you kind of skip the line of all that stuff when you're real specific about the story. A lot of the people that get well known, it's because they got so clear on the one thing that they talk about. Does that make sense? Yeah. So then when you go back to your story, here's what's fun. So we replace Erin with Michelle. You can look back. 15, I had a failure. Oh, phases. That is one of my favorite things is a T-chart, okay? So you do before and then after. And Jesus actually uses this on the Sermon on the Mount, which is like, obviously, Jesus is the best teacher of time, and so, but after. Years no, after. I made a reel about this, I haven't posted it yet, but your life, in your health, as an example, you could make a list of the things that you could do that would make your health worse. And then write the opposite to write the things that would make your health better. Right? And then what you're doing is you're writing a book for somebody who's doing these things, helping them do these things. And that's true in relationships too, right? So for example, I'll be real vulnerable. I've asked you to be vulnerable with me. So my dad and I love my dad to death, have a relationship. We all have relationships. And there's actually things I'm years old that I didn't know a few years ago. And if there was a way for me to write that down, put it in a little package, we call it a book, like put those lessons into a book, and then send it back to 2023, and it shows up in the mailbox, and it's a time machine letter, right?
I love that.
And I got it from Brian from 2026, and it's 2023, and it says, "Dear Brian, your dad is, and you need to know this." And I was able to read it. I'd be like, oh, I would have skipped 3 years of trying to figure it out. Does that make sense? Okay, so I think that would be such a loving thing for me to be able to do. But I don't think time travel works that way. But second best is I could write that for my neighbor. I'm on brand. Yeah, come on. Yeah. Okay. Amazing. Yeah. Okay, you're taking me a couple layers away. Come. Yeah. So this framework really can help you figure out what one book to write, right? Because if I open the mailbox and there was a book about dads and sons, I'd be like, it's like A to Z. But if it was about specifically, what do you do in the transition of your dad getting older, and how do you like, basically how to take over without being a jerk? That's kind of what I'm going through right now. How do I take over his medical decisions? How do I help with his finances? How do I help with these things without him being really mad at me and doing it in a kind way? I don't know that map right now. Does that make sense? But someone who's 3 years further than me could write that map for me, and we can do the same for each other. What were you going to say? Yeah. It was a surprise. Yeah. I wish. Yeah, that's right. I think, I love what you said. I think $18 compared to a $50,000 divorce. Okay? $18 compared to, right, to write that. Is your family going to be, or you're at where now stuck where you were stuck? So that specificity is really important. Yeah. So if you write that house, senior, right, or I'm going to a home, if you had your, like, what senior year or something like that, those moms would be like, I want that book. And then the next group, the people that have juniors next year, they need that book. And that's how that book grows. Does that make sense? Oh my goodness, I want to buy that book because ours is a junior and I want to, but he's a boy, so don't write it for me. Write it for the one with the senior girl. Yeah. Does that make sense? That's specific. That's specific. Yeah. If you wrote a book and I go on Amazon and I type in parent of senior in high school girl, boom, your book's the one that comes up at the top. And then think about because you mentioned speaking, think about all the workshops, all the schools, PTA nights, school nights, and all make the most mind, because I've seen it. Yeah. And that alone is a really big message. Mm-hmm. But see how specific it is? Yeah. For you? What would you call that?
Think about is the magic number. They graduate at 18 and all of a sudden they're an adult and they don't need you anymore or whatever.
Mm-hmm. What do you got? You got it. I like it. What were you saying? What are you telling her? Yeah. They've never been 18. Yeah. But you've also, the mom who would read the book has never had a senior in high school. What's the shortest way to say senior in high school? Is that it? Senior in high school? Or is there like, you want to call it when? Oh, well, see, that I like what you said, but that is like the traditional kind of wisdom is like writing that, but then it's like, but you don't really know specifically. Like I would go, when your daughter turns 18. A guide for moms. Now that might sound so crazy specific, but every year, every single year, as long as your kid's still alive, they're eventually going to turn 18. And if they're a daughter, then she needs your book. And you can even say a guide for Christian moms, right? Because like the advice for Christian moms is going to be different than the advice for all the moms. Yeah. So if you wrote that book and that book was out, how does that make you feel? I mean, the Bible says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. And so just hearing you narrow down, did you see how she started to flow?